Hello everybody. In this video we're going to be looking at the iconic ride, the Matterhorn Bobsleds in Disneyland. We divide this up into two parts. The first part we're going to look at how the different tracks in the iconic ride look like. And in the final part we're going to look at the speed of the ride. We're going to look at all the little things that you might not notice when you first stand in line. Like for instance this foot of the Yeti at the beginning of the ride. Now we're going to take a look at the Tomorrowland section of the track. And as the gate opens, we take a look at the bobsled. Also notice that I'm going to be sitting on the back seat, and we're going to give you some details about what it's like to sit in the back seat of the bobsled and on the Tomorrowland side as well. Into the bobsled, you'll notice that there are little pockets on the side of each seat to stick your foot in. Unfortunately, in my case, I couldn't stick my foot in, or I didn't really notice them, so my legs were kind of uncomfortable. I really felt it was very, very short. In reality, I could have probably jammed my foot in there a little bit better. So when you get into the bobsled, look for those slots to put your foot. A really good hint is to remove your hat, and luckily the cast member reminded my brother to take his hat off. Otherwise he would be shopping for a new hat in one of the stores. If you look above my brother's head, you see the Fantasyland Track loading up and going into the Matterhorn first.
Thank you.
As we go deeper into the tunnel, our bobsled now engages into the system that raises our cart all the way up to the top of the bobsled track. Next, we go past a couple of holes in the Matterhorn that suggests that this is Harold the Yeti's home, and he's upset that we have arrived, and you hear him roaring. If you don't look carefully, there is a display here honoring Frank Wells, the explorer, who explored all the peaks in the mountains. So they called this the Wells Expedition, and supposedly Harold the Yeti has found them and took care of them. Here we see a couple of gondolas that used to be running through the Matterhorn before 1994, when there were gondolas, or the Skyway, that was discontinued after 1994. Next we see Harold the Yeti in the Tomorrowland side, which can be viewed from the Fantasyland side when you pass through. While we head on through this tunnel, we see the Fantasyland side of Harold the Yeti. As we approach the water plunge, the water actually cools the tires of the bobsleds down as it travels through, since going through the track generates a lot of heat.
Wow. Great.
Please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened. Permanecer sentados, por favor.
Notice on the Tomorrowland side bobsleds track, we actually exit the bobsleds from the right-hand side, which is different than from the Fantasyland side, which you'll see in a few minutes. We exit from the left-hand side.
Wow. That's intense, man. That's intense. Okay, so now
Just check out that queue to ride the bobsleds. It is pretty long, so be prepared for that.
oh, what do you think, bro?
Now for the Fantasyland track, we board the bobsleds from the left-hand side, and I found them a little bit more comfortable since I'm sitting in the front seat. Very similar to how I feel when I'm riding in my surf kayak in Hawaii. There's a very familiar feeling to me when I sit in this position.
Dentro del tobogán y cuide a sus pequeños.
For your safety, remain seated with your seatbelt fastened, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the box. And please, watch your kids. Thank you.
Para su seguridad, permanezca sentado con el cinturón de seguridad ajustado y mantenga las manos, brazos, pies y piernas dentro del tobogán.
As we enter the cave, we notice that we engage in the chain that lifts us up to the top, just like the Tomorrowland side. Soon we come across the Frank Wells Expedition display again, slightly different than the Tomorrowland. Is Harold the Yeti on the Fantasyland side, and he is right there looking at us, and it does look like the same Yeti as on the other side of the track at the Tomorrowland. Because of the position of my camera, I was able to catch a really neat phenomenon. If you look up in the sky, you'll see that I caught a sun bow around the sun. Really awesome. Now we get to check out Harold the Yeti from the Fantasyland side of the track.
That was intense.
Please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened. Permanecer sentado.
A little bit, yeah.
Notice that Tiffany said it kind of hurt, so keep that in mind. If you have any issues with either your neck or your back or something else, don't enter this ride. So unlike the Tomorrowland track, everybody exits on the left-hand side, as you'll notice. And above us is the monorail track, which you don't see on the Tomorrowland side.
You're going to put us to your left side.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. Oh, thanks.
In this segment, we're going to examine the actual speed of the bobsleds as it goes through the Matterhorn. As it goes up the hill, you can see that it goes up at a fairly slow rate, and we go past all of the neat things, but then as we reach the top, the chain is released and now we're going a lot faster, or at least slightly faster. As we go down this track, notice my head bouncing around. Something to keep in mind. The Matterhorn is the first steel beam roller coaster in the world. So it, was a little bit new for its time, but at this point it's more historic. And so it's not quite as smooth as some of those new modern roller coasters that you are accustomed to now. You may have been surprised that the roller coaster only went a maximum of 15 miles per hour, but that's the beauty of the illusion of the Matterhorn bobsleds. It gives you an impression that you're going a lot faster. The Matterhorn is the only structure that is visible outside of Disneyland, and it is iconic, and being the first steel beam roller coaster in the world, many have copied it. This trip was really, really great because it reacquainted me with the Matterhorn, and I saw this sunbeam. As beautiful as a sunbeam is, This is what we have in Hawaii. This is a rainbow. Thank you for watching, and aloha.